BMW is well known for its long history with motorcycles. The most well-known example of that is their twin boxer engine, which ultimately is a derivative of the airplane engine they were once forced to start building their motorcycles with. This engine has been and still is the engine of choice for most of BMW's models. The Boxer's success, however, hasn't always been that good. In the 80s, stricter emission regulations as well as a competition of motorcycles from the land of the rising sun, Japan, meant that BMW had to step up its game. And this is what they came up with. It's the BMW K bikes. They came both in 3 and 4 cylinder versions. The engine was developed by Josef Fritzenwenger, who used an engine from a Peugeot 104. He basically turned the engine by 90 degrees so that a low center of gravity could be maintained. An added bonus to this orientation is the ease of maintenance. You can service this engine without having to take the bike apart. This bike has also been known as the flying brick. There's a lot of different types of K bikes which I'm not going to get into today. As was apparent, I'm going to review my BMW K75. This bike has 3 cylinders amounting to 750cc of volume. These 3 cylinders produce about 75 horsepower. The engine is water cooled and it runs like a sewing machine. Fuel system is done by Bosch. It's a system similar to the second generation of BMW's 3 Series cars. The looks are as expected of a BMW motorcycle. Let's just say it's not the most beautiful bike out there. I find it sort of appealing, but it's not the ugliest BMW I've ever seen. Riding one can only be described as smooth. The engine runs very smoothly and BMW has really succeeded in instilling a little bit of that boxer feel to this bike. The gearbox is really smooth. So smooth even that I argue it shifts as smoothly as any Japanese bike from the same time period. This is a polar opposite to what I was used to on my GS, because that bike was proper clunky compared to this one. The brakes work sufficiently, although I would say it could do with a little more effective brakes. I don't think it's really bad, but it can definitely use an upgrade. Maybe it's got to do with the fact that this bike and the brakes were designed in the 80s. The same goes for suspension. My bike has been upgraded with an Öhlins rear shock absorber, but I imagine if the original shock is similar to the front suspension, it will probably feel a little bit outdated. Its steering feels a little bit heavy at first. A big plus with this engine configuration is that the center of gravity can be kept low. Despite that benefit, however, I can't help but feel that this K bike doesn't like to lean. Different from what I was used to with my former GS. It feels like you have to proper work it around corners. The seating on this bike is perfect. Combine that with the low maintenance engines, you can just go on forever. The position is just right. Also, if you're one of the bigger guys, the knees are bent at just the right angle for me. Same goes for the resting position of the feet. I bet it will be even better if you get a K75 RT, that's the Fairings version, to get a sublime wind protection. For some riders, a major part of the experience is engine noise. The K sits a little bit in between as far as that goes. It's raw and mechanical sounding, but it's also civilized. You can ride around at 50 km per hour and still maintain serenity and peace. Until you open up the tabs. Then the K comes really loose and the serene noise becomes a rumble and then a roar. During cruising at low speeds, a distinctive whining sound can be heard. This is known as the K whine, and it is a normal sound for these bikes to make. It's caused by the way that the end alternator is driven. Rather than using a belt like later BMWs, this one is driven by a cogwheel. Now, as far as gimmicks go, the following optional accessories are available. ABS, fuel gauge, water temperature gauge, heated grip, windscreen, and the suitcases, side and top. Speaking of gimmicks, a K-bike is a very fun and useful, depending on how forgetful you are, feature that I have not seen on any other bike yet. If your speed is above 50 km per hour and you turn on your blinker, it will automatically turn off after 10 seconds or when 300 meters of distance have been passed. Whichever comes first. It's pretty nifty if you ask me. Apart from some bad luck, like my gearbox, the bike hasn't been giving me much trouble. You should be able to get a decent K bike from 1000 to around 3000 euros. I do feel these bikes will last forever if you take care of them properly. I would definitely recommend getting one if you do a lot of commuting and you don't mind somewhat outdated looks and performance. So to recap it all, it's cheap, reliable, a little bit outdated, but nevertheless a good bike.